Guys, we'll move on over to the quarterback, Carson Wentz. Alex, should I just break out the soapbox now, or?
No, I will let you all go first. I will let you all go first and then tell you the ways that you're wrong, even though you're probably all very right in your takes.
Okay, so Carson Wentz was quarterback 10 last year. Just over 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, had 1 rushing touchdown. Guys, your thoughts around Carson Wentz?
I think that's about right for Carson Wentz. He has top 10 talent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that anybody disputes that. Like, Carson Wentz has a good arm. Like, he does a pretty good job diagnosing plays. He holds on to the ball a little bit too long, which has caused some of these injury issues. He's trying to do some things with his legs that caused the first year issues. So I think he's learning from this. I think 10's accurate, but he's not going as 10. I think he's going off the board at like quarterback 6 or 7. So for that reason, again, going back to the value side of things, I can happily wait on that and go in other avenues. Now, I have a couple shares of Carson Wentz. Don't get me wrong. They're all, right, wrong, or indifferent. They're all super flex leagues where you have to grab quarterbacks. Otherwise, you get left in the dust. But I do have a couple shares of him. But in a standard or traditional PPR one quarterback league, I'm okay with not going Carson Wentz and then sitting back and then trying to get my hands on a Matt Ryan or a Ben Roethlisberger, if you think you're going to see a reemergence there, Drew Brees type thing. I'm okay with all that. I have just as many options that I like just as well, if not slightly better, that I don't have to take inside the top 10 of quarterbacks to feel confident about a top 10 finish. So it's nothing against Wentz, more so the value that he's getting drafted that I'm not in love with.
No, I'm right there with you. I would agree. I do think that he's got a ton of talent and a ton of potential. For me, I see him finishing again in the back half of the QB1 territory, probably, 8, 9, 10, somewhere right in there. But Alex, I'm more interested in hearing what you have to say on Carson Wentz, so I'm just going to cede the floor to you.
The floor is yours, Senator.
We didn't bash him enough for Alex to have anything to defend. He's like, shit, you guys all have really true points here. What am I going to say?
Okay, so the knock on Carson Wentz was injuries, right? It was the knock coming out of college. He didn't play much. He only played a season and a half in college. He's only played all 16 games twice in the 4 years that he's been a pro, and some of those injuries were on him, right? He made a concerted effort last year to not run the football and not put himself in those dire situations. Cheap shots aside, he probably should have finished that first playoff game that he made his appearance in. And if you tell me that was not a cheap shot, you are lying. That was a cheap shot. It was a cheap shot.
It wasn't a cheap shot.
No, it was a cheap shot, okay? No. It was a cheap shot. It was helmet to helmet. It was a spear. He was giving himself up. Cheap shot central. I cannot believe. Anyways, last year was the first year that Carson Wentz threw for over 4,000 yards in a season. Now, again, 2 of those seasons were shortened. He threw for 4,000 yards. He didn't have anybody to throw to. I think that the numbers that we saw last year are going to be comparable, probably an uptick in yards by just a little bit. But the thing that I like the most is his touchdown to interception ratio. He's only thrown 7 interceptions the last 3 seasons. Granted, he only played 13 and 11 games in the 2 previous years. But he, to me, is a QB1. I will overspend for Carson Wentz. I will draft him in the 4th round if I have to, if I start to get nervous that he's going. To me, Carson Wentz is my guy. Everybody that I'm in a league with knows that, so it's really to my detriment because they know that I'm going to overpay for him, so they can start looking elsewhere at other guys that they're going to get. But that's where I'm at with Carson Wentz. He was an MVP candidate 2 years ago before he tore his ACL. He's a quality quarterback. He is top 10, no doubt. And now with all these weapons that he's got around him, he will probably be back up in that top 5 conversation, probably back up, depending on how the Eagles season goes, if their defense can figure things out. He'll be in that MVP conversation again.
He will not sniff top 5 fantasy quarterback unless he starts running the ball again. There's too many mobile quarterbacks right now. And that's what I'm getting at. In today's NFL and how that translates to fantasy, Mahomes uses his leg and just has the best arm talent that we've seen in eons. So, okay, there's that. But then you have Lamar Jackson, you have Josh Allen, you have a Dak Prescott, you have Russell Wilson. All those guys are mobile. On top of Ryan Tannehill has a little bit of wiggle to him. And I don't love Ryan Tannehill. We went through that last week with the Titans. But Tannehill can still run. Wentz has to be able to find that happy medium for him to even come close to that area, Alex. And that's only just because of how the NFL is set up today.
And I get what you're saying. I do. I get what you're saying with the running quarterbacks. That's going to be a thing. But I'm looking at these guys who led the league last year in rushing touchdowns, right? Josh Allen had, 9, 7 each for Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. Josh Allen's rushing touchdowns are going to go way down this year, right?
Watson's another one. I mean,
right.
We're just adding guys.
No, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Ryan Fitzpatrick is on that list at 4. That's number 5. 4 touchdowns get you 5. Now, again, the Eagles and Carson, they were very concerned about his health and his ability to play an entire season. So they weren't going to put him in those situations where it was quarterback run game as much, especially down towards the goal line. They were going to use the other weapons that he's got with an Ertz, a Goddard, a Boston Scott. Like those options are there for him to not have to do that. So yes, I get what you're saying. For fantasy purposes, the rushing yards and the rushing touchdowns, you need those. But you're not gonna take me off of this opinion.